Ulukut. My name is Rob Lackie. I'm Inuit. I was born in Happy Valley, Labrador, and brought here to Ontario and grew up here in the Toronto area. Being Inuit, we have a lot of different stories that we can tell, and the one I have the most experience with is my own personal experience. And my mother, she went to residential school. She couldn't speak her language. Basically, culture shock, and she had troubles in school. I guess she was hearing impaired as well, and it's a big issue. And of course, having to speak English and not knowing English in the first place, that's the toughest thing. But as you go through school, you can't speak the language. They'll strap your hand or something like that. So she didn't speak the language. So she doesn't speak our language anymore. She only speaks English. And a lot of survivors lost their language just for that reason of going to residential school. So I myself was part of what they call the 60's scoop, where I was taken away from my mother. I went to 4 foster homes before I was adopted, and then brought here to Ontario to a non-Aboriginal family. So again, I grew up without the culture, without the traditions, without the language, which is to me the most important thing. And slowly I'm trying to learn, but we don't have a lot of language speakers in my territory here in Toronto specifically, but in Ontario at all. There's a few in Ottawa, but again, the distance and things like that. So it makes it tough. Again, being part of the 60's scoop, I didn't know I had any siblings or anything. So I found my biological mother. I was searching for 16 years. I went through the Long Form Disclosure Act. I did everything. Thankfully, I think it was 2012, I think, was when they opened up all records, and you basically had to write to say you didn't want your record open. So, but that was much later. So I found my mother, and then she said, "Oh, you have a sister." Oh my goodness! So I had no idea. But my sister, she went to an American family, so she was naturalized as a U.S. citizen. So she lost her Canadian citizenship, and because of that, she now isn't able to vote in our elections or anything, because she's not a Canadian citizen, which she has to be in order to vote in our Nunatsiavut government elections, which happen to be coming up next month. So that's one thing. So again, not only was she brought up in a non-Aboriginal family as well, she didn't have the culture, language, or anything. Same situation I was in. She's only 11 months younger than me. So again, I had no idea growing up I even had any siblings. So that was great to hear. But the worst part of the story is our younger biological brother passed away in January, and it really hurt me because I was never able to meet him. But not knowing my brother, it's a part I'll never know now. So, yeah, I had to deal with that, and had to. We actually decided to cremate him and send his ashes home back to my mom. So that was good. He'd been out of the system. He was one of those that fell through the cracks. He moved to Chatham about 26 years ago or so, and I finally got to talk to the police officer that found his body, and he told me the history that they had known about my brother, and he again moved to Chatham, and then ended up moving to Windsor, and then went to a group home in Leamington, which is where they had found him. He'd been in Leamington the last 6 years or so. But again, I didn't have any of this knowledge prior, and again, all the emotions and everything else all at once was really tough. And, yeah, so it's culture shock and all these things. Probably got the best of him, and that's why he was on his own and in a group home setting, because he didn't have anywhere else to go. Yeah.